If you want to raise money, need to raise money, or trying to figure out how to raise money, this is probably one of the best fundraisers I know, so buckle up. Mr. Peter Pham. So Peter and I met a couple years ago. We were in Puerto Rico at a conference. I don't know if I really cared about the conference or he did. I don't know how either one of us got there. We looked at each other and we said, hey, you wanna go get dinner? We went and got dinner. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, we were like, man, we're still not at dinner, but we are dancing, drinking, having a blast all throughout Puerto Rico. And somehow we stayed friends, which may be a testament to you. And along the way, I've watched you do some incredible things. You run a product studio. For those that don't know, Science is probably the leading product studio in the country. And you guys have incubated Dollar Shave Club, Liquid Death, many, many other companies. Can you just tell us the Dollar Shave Club story first, specifically between great marketing, great product, and funding something that was different? And you had to do a lot of work, I think, to kind of make sure that you guys had the capital you needed to scale that to $1 billion business.
Yeah, so raising money, it turns out I'm just really good at it. I think
put the microphone like that.
Raising money is fairly easy to me now, mostly because it's repetition, right? I've had somewhere between 7,000 to 8,000 no's at this point. And the way Science works, I've run venture fund LA. I help our founders raise money. So we're basically helping them co-found the business. They move into the offices, and it's a grind. And so Dollar Shave Club, friend of a friend, introduced us, Michael Dubin, and we'll get to Liquid Death with a similar story. He worked at an agency, super creative, had this crazy idea. Through a random friend of a friend, ended up with literally a warehouse full of razor blades that was being stored at a church. And I think that we could wind back the clock a little. This is, nobody had ever shipped. There was subscription did not exist online, right? It was built on Magento. So this is pre-Shopify, right? This is like Stripe had just started and nothing existed for consumers to buy stuff online to get shipped to the house. So here's the pitch. Dollar Shave Club. Today, people go to razors at the CVS, then $30. It's locked behind a cabinet. You feel like a criminal. But now in SF, if I guess you buy eggs, it's behind, locks. And we're gonna ship it to consumers direct, but humor drives everything. So my basis of everything is always culture. And he is just funny and creative. In that video, that original cost $6,500, right? And YouTube had this is like early YouTube days, and the ideas was like, well, can we drive virality? Let's put the video on the homepage. Him and I actually argued till like 5 in the morning on launch day. Homepage autoplay, homepage autoplay. He's like, absolutely not, absolutely not. 6 in the morning, he relents. We put it on the homepage, it autoplays, it crashes the servers, and that was the moment, right? It's like, that's for me the moment and understanding like, okay, social drives commerce. And so back then, the idea of raising money for the video and selling razor blades online, we got no's everywhere. Kirsten Green at Forerunner, she hadn't even closed her fund yet. I begged her to invest. Eileen, who essentially is Cowboy Ventures now, she was at Kleiner, begged her to invest, 250. I didn't sink it, Felicis Ventures. Like these are some of the best firms today. Begged, he put in 100. The rest was like begging and stealing, 50,000, 50 to raise the first million. And I probably went through 75 to 80 no's. And like, these were personal friends of mine. Trust me, this is gonna work, this is gonna work. So that first million, right? And so it's one of these things where you just gotta hit it over and over and over. And raising money for me it is not personal when someone says no, it's just not for them. That's okay. It's like music. I was at gospel last night, so they close at 4:30. I don't know why. You either dance to the music or you don't, right? You hear a song, you're like, oh, who is that? I want to listen to it again. Who's the artist? Put it on my playlist. But then you hear songs like, oh, that's not for me. Like Metallica's not for me. They are clearly one of the best heavy metal bands in the world. So that's okay. And I don't want that investor. So when people say no, that's okay. Wake up, there's always another.
I know you were out late because I was in the WhatsApp group while you were planning, and then I saw I got removed at 12:30 while I was sleeping. And I was like, damn, they're still planning a lot in there, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it was only 1:30 technically. I'm from LA, so.
Let's talk liquid death. I think a similar story. And what's interesting is you called me and were like, hey, we're going to do water in a can. And I said, Peter, I love you. No, that's stupid. And then you were like, no, Pomp, seriously, like, trust me. And I was like, let me think about it. And then I saw you in Austin, Texas, South by Southwest. Plynn and I were both there. And you literally had a cooler of liquid death that you were carrying around and you were handing them out to people. And I'll never forget, we were in a bar and you handed one to both of us. She drinks slow. So when we were leaving the bar, she still had hers. And we went to leave and the bouncer was like, hey, you can't leave with alcohol. And it hit me. I was like, holy shit, every single person's gonna think this is alcohol, but it's actually water. And then you explain kind of the social component of you wanna look cool at the bar, you don't wanna have the Dasani bottle, blah, 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 whatever. What was that fundraising experience like? Because it took me multiple times and a personal relationship and you basically twisting my arm. And then I finally was like, all right, fine, here.
I had, so I was an angel investor in Ring and Jamie Siminoff I called and I said, if you invest, it's the only person I did it for because he made me money.
Yeah, you didn't offer me this deal. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I said, if you invest, I will personally guarantee that you will not lose money. I will write a check out of my pocket if this thing doesn't work. Please invest. And so I knew, so my thing is about culture, right? Just honestly why I go out last night is understanding in the moment when I got pitched this idea, I was doing this similar talk for Snapchat's accelerator. So Spiegel had asked me to they were doing early days of their accelerator, hey, talk to entrepreneurs how to raise money. And this guy, Michael, who was running the accelerator said, hey, there's a company that applied. It's not for us, it's for Snapchat, but I think you'd like it, Liquid Death. Here's their Facebook page. And it was just this image of a can on a Facebook page and a fan page and people just commenting how stupid it was, this is idiotic, etc. And I just knew it was gonna work. Mostly because I had the experience of Dollar Shave Club, but comedy works. And it was just, is this video where someone's like, liquid death, it murders your thirst, but here's how water kills you. Waterboarding, surfing, drowning, like people die with water all the time. Let's do liquid death. And it's just this funny commercial where at the end of it, she's waterboarding somebody, right? Dark humor, obviously. But we just banned plastic straws. The Atlantic had just wrote an article on how China's not buying our trash anymore to recycle. Plastic water bottles to me were like the next generation's cigarette butt. It's like, ew, why? And I don't drink, right? As much as I dance, I just don't drink. And I think weed had just become legal in Denver. I was like, oh, psychedelics, like friends are doing shrooms already and MDMA is a party. I go to EDM, it's like nobody's doing alcohol. It'll work. Pitching liquid death in a can, that's insane. Like it just didn't make sense to people because it's a $2 can of water. But for me.
But once I had invested, I think that maybe it was I was paying more attention, but also they started to kind of figure out, like they literally were building a cult, right? We've heard from a couple of people in terms of like really, really doubling and tripling down on the people who believe. And so people were getting tattoos. They were taking the haters' comments and turning them into rock songs. Like they really went and were like, we are going to build something that people feel an emotional connection to.
Yeah, if you look at today's culture, we have two sides, right? People just automatically pick a side, just like human nature. And if you know what you are and you own it, people respect that way, way more, right? And you pick that side. We picked one side, like it's fucking funny. You know who's our audience? People who don't take themselves seriously. That's it. Some people take themselves too seriously and they don't like it. That's okay. And so Mike Cesario, Dollar Shave Club, right? This is Liquid Death, also of Mike. Both worked at an agency, both did creative work, both had this crazy idea while working at a creative agency saying, hey, all he did was he was making these commercials for like brands that were good for you, but it was always like streams and grass. And it's like, well, why is Red Bull and Taco Bell and Mountain Dew just like the worst thing for you in the world, but like exciting? Why don't we make something good for you, but exciting? And also, by the way, if you think about the biggest impact that Tesla, like my stretch is always Tesla, the biggest impact is they made electric cars cool. And guess what? Every manufacturer in the world is now making electric cars. We're making Beverage in a can, cool. Water. So it's not that, look, we'll sell hundreds of millions of cans and eventually billions of cans, but Coke and Pepsi produce like 1 billion plastic bottles a day, right? So culture. To your point, why this? Over time, the seed round, $1 million in, big, still, like at this point, I have a fund, so we funded it. And every single round got harder and harder, and then it got easier, like everything else, right? And what I say is fundraising is, the world used to look like this. So the tips of always fundraising is, the format is, the world used to be like this. The world now has this. I'm building this thing that's taking advantage of this, and this is how the world will be over here, right? So think of that.
Repeat this again. So this is the format that you guys use in the pitches and in the decks. And just for context, when I say that Peter is one of the best fundraisers I know, any major venture fund is probably invested in one of the companies. Literally, he many times goes and raises the money, not the CEO of the business, because he is so good at doing it. Yeah. And it's the same exact formula every single time.
Yeah, my favorite was I was sitting at, we were raising for Dog Vacay and at Benchmark, and Bill Gurley looks at me and goes, Peter, what are you doing in the meeting? I'm like, you know what you're doing. Aaron's a first-time founder. Like, I'm here to translate. Like, half the questions you ask, he doesn't even understand, right? And Bill Gurley eventually invested and was on the board. We merged with Rover. It's now public. But it's a communication, right? They're asking questions. I can read it. I know exactly what's happening in the room, what questions, why they're saying no. I can read a no a mile away. It's always, but think of all the biggest companies in the world. It was before Uber, right? It was, well, people would call taxis, but because of cell phone and GPS and a smartphone, I can now hit a button and then cars will come. And because of eBay, because of this idea of an anonymous person, but we'll have 5-star reviews. This person I'm going to start trusting, right? I actually think about like Ubers and the DoorDash and Lyft. Actually, eBay started it. Oh, this anonymous person, lots of reviews, 5 stars. Yeah, I'll send money and they might send me stuff. Uber was the same thing, right? And so this is now how the world looked. Liquid death. Well, look, plastic water bottles, alcohol. The world now doesn't want plastic. They don't drink. They want something fun. And it turns out the insight of this, and I've handed out personally somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 cans out of my hand, is that when you hold it, people talk to you. That's it. When you hold this, people, oh, what's that? This is either the stupidest idea in the world. Oh my God, that is so dumb. Or it's funny and it's awesome, right? And that's it. And so this stranger, we're not talking about the weather anymore. We're not like what you do during lockdown. Like, what's your startup? What do you do? Which is a fucking terrible question. We're talking about something funny. And now like that human interaction of haha, funny connection. Well, Pavlovian response is when I'm at a concert, right? We're the official Water for All Live Nation. When I go to the concession stand, you're just thirsty. You're not actually caring when I grab a Coke, nobody talks to me. Grab a Bud Light, definitely nobody talks to me. I grab a Liquid Death, I always meet somebody funny and it's fun. Why not? So that, right? So cultural insight, so telling that story and showing people and the reaction, that's how you kind of get the story told. And fundraising is how the world was, how the world is now, what's happening, and how am I taking advantage of that moment? And this is the way the world's gonna look. Now, the secret of all fundraising, seed, otherwise, usually past seed. Seed is, I would say, the worst thing for your pitch is numbers. Like everything is worse once you actually have revenue. Because now, well, how much revenue? Let's do multiples and let's do discounted cash flow. Like storytelling of a story, right? It's all about storytelling. And if you tell people, I hate this, like, oh, I'm a seed company. Here's my revenue in 5 years. Like, I know you're making shit up. Like, why are we making shit up, right? Tell me a bigger story. In fact, you might be limiting yourself. So what the secret is, you say, oh, I'll be doing $100 million in 2 years. Like, so now as an investor, I'm like, oh, so that's capped. Well, what if that's too small for me? We had this whole story about Masa and SoftBank. That's way too small. Give me the tools for my imagination to run wild. And oh my God, he doesn't know what I know. And if I invest, oh, it's gonna be so much bigger than that person knows. That makes me feel like I want to invest, right? Does that make sense? Like I'm almost, in a way, kind of taking advantage of young buck over here. Let me give some money, and he doesn't know what he's got. But if you tell me what you got, and like I get to judge, and like, too small. always in fundraising, there's three things people always focus, for me, is always tell people, focus on the three things. Meaning you have a current business, whatever it is. If you are in the moment where you actually have users, acquisition, retention, revenue, strip yourself back as a founder and say, three things that go up and to the right. When I say up and to the right, it's this. This is what I call linear, is flat. Linear flat is, I'm doing $100,000 in revenue a month, every month. I'm like, great. Call me back in 12 months and you do 1.2 million. Well, it'll come to be more expensive, of course. That's fine. You're telling me I'm gonna reduce my risk by 99%, right? I reduce my risk and pay 2x all day. But if I tell you my revenue was, 6 months ago it was $100,000 and 4 months ago it was 250, last month's like 800, I can't mathematically calculate what's happening in 12 months. So I have to invest now. Does that make sense? So, but it doesn't always have to be revenue. Look at things.
So hold on. These are like insights that he can unpack very deeply. The idea of creating urgency by having charts that go up and to the right.
It doesn't have to be revenue.
Yes, explain this.
Correlated revenue. It can be correlation. So enterprise sales. Well, it used to take me 6 months to close a sale. 6 months ago. 6 months, it took 6 months. 3 months ago, we got it down to like a month. Last week, dude, people are like clicking on a button and signing up automatically without talking to me. Whoa, something, right? Like something's happening. Every scenario is like, users used to use the product 6 months ago. They'd come in and they use the product for like 2 minutes. 3 months ago, 12 minutes. Last week, like 48 minutes. I don't know what's happening. Like you tell them what's happening, but in a way, right, you're showing that if I give you money, if I, as an investor, give you money, what's your job? To get smarter and faster, right? And what's great is, as an investor, you took his money and got smarter and faster, and I get to jump on the coattails of that. Make sense? So it makes me feel like, all right, I didn't do it their last round, and instead of me thinking, that investor got a better price than me, it's like, no. I'm riding the backs of that last investor who took all the risk, and that founders now figured a lot of shit out. And if I give them more money, that means they're going to continue this acceleration path of figuring it out. It's faster. So I call it velocity. Any metric in your business doesn't have to not be revenue. Anything that has velocity, right? So enterprise sales to consumer products, it used to take X, right? 6 months, it used to take this long to do this thing. 3 months ago and a month ago. And I always tell founders, for the next 30 days, if you just do that thing manually, I don't care if you got to go flyer cars and talk to people. You need to increase your retention. Call your customers. Investors didn't know that you physically called every customer. They just, people just start coming back. Like, do the hard work, right? And I think Kat said the thing, do the hard work. You better know the entire stack, the whole experience, but find little gaps in that business where you can say the whole team's going to focus on getting people to spend more money. Forget new customers. I want to know people who spent money last month, did they come back? Did they refer a friend? Fine. Convince everyone to refer. 6 months ago, 2% people would refer a friend. 3 months ago, 4. Last week, 30, 40%. Acceleration, velocity, because it doesn't have to tie to the revenue.
So there's the story of acceleration, but what about the visual in the deck, which is, I think, one of your greatest hacks? Explain this.
Right, linear is flat, meaning, like I said, 100,000, 100, 200, right? Cumulative, I can predict this. That acceleration curve, 6 months ago, it used to take this long, speed. And all of a sudden I think, my gosh, if I don't invest right now, in 3 months, they're going to figure that out, and the conversion is going to go to 70%, right? And it'll be such an obvious investment. I can't miss out. FOMO is real. If this goes to the point of when you read a room in investors, if they do not respond in 24 hours, they're not interested. Think about if you met somebody out last night, if they don't text you, for a month, are they interested in you? No, of course not. Like, if they're liking your Instagram post like that night, that's good. Right? I take any signal, I will take any signal of investor interest within 24 hours. It could be a retweet, it could be they checked out my LinkedIn profile. Ideally, they actually emailed me, thanking me, asking me follow-up questions, right? The reality is when investors say, oh, it's too early. Oh, come back when they're just trying to be nice, right? Or 24 hours. We're not that busy. Well, I am. Most VCs, they're not that busy. Think about it. How many investments do they do a year? You're telling me you do 6 a year, and if you're really, really interested, you can't text me, email something the next day that you're in, hey, right? Of course. They're not, the moment you left the room, they stop thinking about you. So they're done. Don't waste your time, move on. And so that's the pace, is don't get drowned out and chase and people spend so much time chasing the no. It's not going to happen, move on, right? Then you start, just like everything else in the real world, you start looking desperate.
Game over. All right, so you want to go fundraise. You come up with a story, right? You've walked us through that formula. You make your deck. Deck looks pretty. Anyone who wants to hack the number one FOMO metric in any deck, you can put your little bar chart and then just put a big fat fucking arrow on top of it and really hammer home this shit's going up and to the right. Works like a charm. You can even, people are gonna get mad, squeeze it. Remember in college where you'd widen the margins and shit so that you could get that 3-page paper when you really only wrote 2.5? You can do the same thing.
Yeah, look.
Humans are stupid and they're like, oh wow, that's a really steep curve.
It's all storytelling, right? Now, of course, people always say it's not fraud. You just have to tell the story. Find the things in your business that are just moving faster. Whether, it used to take you months to recruit somebody and it's fast. Everything just feels faster in the business. And again, let me make this connection, user growth is connected to this velocity that's really happening. They're figuring it out in the business. It doesn't matter what it is, but there are moments in the business. If you focused on it, you can show me this game. Especially this room is all early stage seed. There's no numbers. You have no numbers. Nothing ruins a raise better than numbers. Just remember that. Nothing ruins a raise better than numbers. The moment you have users, it's great, customer acquisition costs, retention. I should start digging in on that actual number. But you start talking about your user experience and how, again, you're getting smarter and faster around that customers, getting to that customer, or driving the time it takes for customers to consider the purchase, right? Or the time it takes for them to refer, the time it takes to renew, the number of cancellations got reduced, whatever it is. These are the things, forget the top thing. Focus on the underlying part of the business. And then less is more. Every deck I see, every single deck, Darren knows. 20% less words. That's it. Nobody wants to read. It's a telephone game. If you pitch me, no matter what, I need to tell somebody. I need to tell somebody the story. And if it's a lot of words, I'm not going to remember it. And then I start feeling stupid. So think about that. Telephone game means when I go home, really, I'm out at networking. I talk to my colleagues. I talk to my significant other. I talk to my partners. I need to explain why I'm excited about this deal. And if it's not simple, a couple of people pitch me and I'm like, what does it do? And they're using all these buzzwords. I'm like, I don't understand. What do you do? How do I explain? The elevated pitch is really about, if you can get it concise, I can then go tell somebody else. That's it. Just remember, telephone game is they have to tell somebody else. If they can't tell their partner why they're doing the deal and what the company is, they're not going to do the deal. And the moment they feel stupid, again, the moment they feel dumb because someone says, well, why about this? And they don't have the answer. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. It's not that good of a idea anyways. So simplify, less words. The deck, just short. ADHD, use ChatGPT for God's sakes. Just shorten the thing up, bullet points. How the world used to be, this is what I'm taking advantage of, and this is the way I look at the world. Here's why I'm a badass. This goes back to early stage, super early stage. The founder. Your product will evolve. Why are you a badass? Tell people, why are you badass? And why is your team a badass? And that tells me that you're gonna be figuring shit out. Right? You will not survive if you can't figure things out. I met an NBA player last night. It's like, I love athletes, Olympians. Think about Olympians. They train like their whole lives for this one day, and then they're done and wait 4 years. Resilience is like, it's like resilience has to show up in that personality trait, right? Kat yesterday, like, talk about resilient. That inspiration is like, oh, instantly, tell me your story, why, and then everything else like doesn't really so much matter, because if you tell me your story, why you, and then show me that you're strong. When people give you money, you figure shit out, you're smart, you figure it out faster. It's like, okay, that's somebody I should back.
Once you have the deck, the story, the great graphics, what's the process? How do you create FOMO? How do you make sure you're talking to enough investors? Like, what does that look like?
It's changed, I think, post-COVID because of Zoom. So it used to be that I'd fly out to Sand Hill, and you can only, I kind of knew everybody, every firm, and it's like Red Point's next to Sequoia's office, and IVP's upstairs. Got Menlo's over. I can schedule them 15 minutes apart. Drive across the street to Andreessen, right? Like, this is loop. But now on Zoom, the assumption is, well, you should do a call every 30, 45 minutes. Remember, the investor, you also have to remember, which also means the investor that you're pitching has a little bit more FOMO these days, because the assumption is, once I hang up this Zoom, this person is pitching 10, 15, 20 people a day, right? All over the world. So the process for me is still relatively pitch early, call it friendlies, people that, you probably wouldn't take their money. They're not that great, but like, they're going to ask some good questions, some dumb questions. And the goal is, after every meeting, what was the question that you can kind of see emotionally they got hung up on? How do I enter that into my story so that it's answered? That's super simple, right? But not enough people do this. What were the questions that they got hung up with? And I felt like I spent too much time explaining myself. How do I incorporate that into the story in the deck so that question doesn't come up? It gets at, right? It's because the whole goal if you get an hour or 30 minutes, if it's an hour, get through the story in 25 minutes, ideally, so that the rest is just discussion, right? It's just to get through. But if you're all the way an hour and 58 minutes and you're barely going to the last slide, it's not going to work. You have to finish early, which means you were concise. 20 slides, 25 minutes, ideally like 17, 16 slides, 25 minutes. Like, you're just coming it through. And then you're inviting questions when you know they're layups. But if you get questions, they're like, I don't know, what about this? What about this? Oh, well, I used to figure out, put that in the story early, answer it, put it in the deck. And the goal is early investors that you wouldn't take money from, or really small checks. They all kind of think alike, to be honest. So they'll have the same questions, answer that. And then second thing, slow investors. So there's slow yeses and fast yes investors. Again, I've pitched every single firm, I know every GP at every firm. I know the personalities. I know the slow people and the fast people. You pitch the slow people first, obviously, because it's a horse at the end of the cycle. I call 30 days. Give yourself 30 days to pitch, 30 days to close. Going back to the 3 points that are up and to the right, whatever those 3 data points that you do, you spend 30 days getting it there. But you gotta make sure for the next 60, they continue to go up and to the right. Okay, I repeat, the next 60, here's why.
The FOMO update.
30 days, why are you raising? Well, it used to take this long and then this long, but the last 30 days, it's really exciting.
It's working. It's
working. So, so I should raise some money. While I'm pitching, during the follow-ups that week, next week, there's reasons for the follow-up. Oh my God, we met 2 weeks ago and I told you that conversion funnel and retention went from here to here. Now it's this. FOMO starts kicking in. Does that make sense? And then term sheet, diligence is 30 days. It better keep going because you won't get to the last, right? Money in the bank is what you need. 30 days of grinding that data, 30 days as it's coming up. You're pitching every week. There's something interesting new. I feel like I'm missing out. It's going to get away from me. I give you a term sheet. I feel good. We're talking the data and then things are still going up. During that, If it's still going up, I might start trying to bring more people into the round, right? Like get me motivated, get me into the story. So that's a really important thing over the next 90 days. Slow investors, fast investors. There are some people who are like, yes, let's go. But you don't want that yes now. You want it when everyone else is at the same, right? Imagine a horse race. Some horses start off slow, some fast. Let the slow ones goes first. Fast ones catch up so that you're all kind of finishing up close at the same time. Your negotiation window for a term sheet is at most 2 weeks. You are rude and an asshole if all of a sudden you're like, I give you a term sheet and you just don't answer. Well, here's how you slow game the term sheet. Very simple. Let's get to know each other. Hey, this is marriage. Can we go out to dinner? Oh, I can't this week, next week. Like, think about the things of like, you have a week, 2 weeks max, but you cannot just sit on term sheet because bird in hand, right? Like, what if everybody else says no? But you want them all getting to the same point, and all of a sudden you can start, if you want to get to the point of negotiation. Otherwise, I will say this, do not over-optimize for price. Startups are binary. When I say that, it either exits or it does not exit. You did not start this company because you want a job for the next 11 years making $125,000 a year, like, right? The difference at the end game is if you made $100 million, well, if I didn't take that dilution, I would have made $119 million. It doesn't matter. If you really mattered, you wouldn't live in fucking New York. You'd go to Florida.
True.
Right? So think of that dilution. So people focus so much. Do the spreadsheet. I always encourage founders to do this. They're like, oh, 30% dilution is too much. I really want 25. It doesn't make a difference. Do a personal spreadsheet. Your equity over rounds, seed, A, B, C, D, E. At the end, it ends up being like 1% to 2%. It's not that big of a deal, right? So the best investors at the table, because they will help you, their job is to help you raise the next round, the next round, the next round, because you are always be raising. Always, always, always be raising, right? It's like ABCs always be charging, always be closing, always be raising. So the pace is really important if you want this collective pressure at the end. I'm also talking to this firm. I'm also talking to this firm. And once I know you're talking to a lot of firms and everyone's not finished, I want to close. If I know I'm the only investor at the front, I get to negotiate. I slow down my decision process.
Yeah, it's ball control.
Yeah, it's ball control. You never let it go.
Obviously, it helps to have a good product, a good company. Like, it gives you the data, it does all these things.
But early stage, look, water in a can. It's the story and belief of the team, right? And some things that will tell the story of why now. Advisories sometimes work. It depends on the investor. Some investors love that you have advisors. I hate it because it's bullshit. Unless it's real, right? If it's somebody I know or somebody who truly has that insight or has the connections that can accelerate that business, it's the cheat code. So-and-so's on my board, so-and-so personally invested, so-and-so, I used to work for so-and-so. Like last night's dinner, the moment he told me he was on founding team Butcher Box and then he's building this company, I'm like, yeah, let me give you money. Like,
no.
Yeah, I know, I love that company. It's storytelling, but it's understanding the business. It's like, oh, why this person? Oh, he's done it, been there for one of the fastest scaling companies I know in the commerce space. The world used to look at this. They struggled through all these things. He helped figure all this stuff out and realized, well, that should just be a separate company. And if that's a separate company, here's the benefit for everybody else. Oh, the world used to like this. Now with this, give me money because I'm building this. Simple, like literally that's it. That's the story. You just want to give that person money. It's not about the numbers.
So let's say that you're great at this and it works. Now all of a sudden, all these venture funds want access.
Oh.
And I've seen this one time. I was working on something and it was the #1 app in the App Store. And
it was, right?
Yes. I knew it
Don't forget that.
would only be.
Yeah.
And so venture capitalists were literally sending, this is a true story, a pie to the office with a note that says, "We would love to get a piece of the pie." Real clever. I mean, like, that's the shit that was going on, right?
I've no stories where like they'll send the private plane, the whole thing. Yeah.
They will show up. When it's game time and there's competition between, especially the major firms, they will pull every single thing out of the repertoire to impress a founder, et cetera. How do you enjoy the perks, but also balance not getting caught up emotionally and potentially making a bad decision or going with a investor that might not be the best one out of those that are interested?
So investors, your job as a founder is obviously to fund the company, but honestly, spend more time on thinking about what's the possibility of this person being net negative. Okay, like boards, the board, their job to remind you is to decide, is this CEO doing their job and should they get fired? Board meeting, this is what I'm gonna tell you. This is how the company's doing. This is what we're gonna do before now and the next board meeting. Next board meeting, I told you what I was gonna do and this is what we did. If you, 3 strikes, you're out. If you show up to the board 3 times and you didn't do what you said you're gonna do, time to go. So remember that, so I do take that seriously. It's a marriage, so spend the time doing diligence. It's crazy that not enough people check references, like truly, not the references they tell you to find everybody. They said, look, people behave the way they are all the time. So find the people that they aren't telling you about. And there are stories, and we all know who they are. You just got to find. So I spend the time like, who truly loves your song, right? Going back to music, obsessed with the song, adds your playlist, truly can like understand you and want to invest, not because they want to make money. We can all make money somewhere, but they truly want to be part of the journey. But more importantly, they're not assholes. And there will be moments in the business where the highs are highs, as you know, as a founder, the lows are low. And you want a person who's going to be supporting you and not just thinking about the money. Because the moment they start thinking about money, they don't care about you, and they make the worst decisions. They're pushing you out of the business, and they start pushing to make decisions in the business that are the net negative. So it's one of these things when, yes, great firms, all this bidding war, spend time with it. Spend time who's joining the board. That's like my only advice, just in due diligence, for the love of God.
So you and I have talked on the diligence side. The best founders to talk to in an investor's portfolio to get an honest assessment is go find the ones that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because you basically see the downside. And then the second thing is never believe the first bad story, but listen to the second one, right? Like everyone, whether you're a founder or an investor or whatever, everyone just didn't get along with someone, didn't like someone, they took something personal, whatever. But if you hear it twice, then pay attention.
Yeah. A lot of negative stories are just personal vendettas.
Yes.
They said no, so they're an asshole. Like, no, if they did real deep, dark, deep cut shit, like that's the stuff you got to find out about. Otherwise, enjoy it while it lasts. But remember, that firm on that round, their job is to help you get to the next round. Their job is to help you recruit people. Their job is to open up the doors and help accelerate the business. We live in a world now. It's really interesting to me. Part of the story, your moat. This is the last thing I forgot about. The world's changed this year. I didn't think of it as much before, but I do think about all the time now. In the world of AI, I don't know how to code, but I can probably clone every startup in here in a weekend. Right? Think about that. Like whatever product you have, like Pomp and I, probably this weekend, we can clone it literally with ChatGPT, the UI, the experience, etc. And how do you win, right? What's the moat? The moat is so much more important. So in a way, the advisory stuff does kind of help, right? Well, I have access to this, right? I have exclusive API access here, or I already have customer base here, or so-and-so is investing and they're the largest distributor on the Eastern Seaboard for this. Like that's the moat. Otherwise, I can just think about whatever you're pitching. Trust me, it used to be maybe 1 or 2, maybe another YC company. Now it's like 100 companies in the exact same thought you have. It's not that original. It's really not. Someone else is cloning. So now the decision's like, okay, so much more now goes into why you versus this person and all these other 100 people who are using ChatGPT built the same thing. Why you? And then what's the moat? Exclusive relationship with this Kaiser to roll out my SaaS software, whatever it is. Like, it's got to have some moat in there. It's going to be a little bit harder these days.
The only other thing I'll add before we end is I'm surprised. I've spent recently with two different founders a bunch of fundraising meetings, and there was two kind of reminders, right? If you haven't done it in a while. One, every single venture capitalist will show up unprepared, like maybe late, right? But they get on, they haven't looked at your product yet. Maybe they looked at the deck, and you'd be shocked because you're like, oh, I'm going to pitch them for money. And like, this is like, you literally blocked this out. You prepared, you did all this stuff. It's like the most important meeting of the day. Unfortunately, you're one of many pitches. And so you have to be prepared for them to be like, so like, how does the product work? Whether that's sharing the screen, whether it's having the screenshots, like you have to anticipate some of this, which I think you were kind of mentioning. But the second thing is you can't have the same exact pitch for every single investor. And so it can take you 10 minutes. If you know you're meeting with X partner at a venture firm, go on their Twitter account, see what they've been talking about. Go look at their blog post. Go look at the industry trends. Show up and guess what? They told you the answers to the test.
Yeah, that's
They're
great
interested
advice.
in creator economy. Our SaaS tool has a really big thing in the creator economy, right? There, and you can talk through it, but the more that you kind of relate it to what they're interested in, obviously they're going to spend more time on it.
Yeah, remember one of the things about it, when you're talking to investors, like some 7,000-8,000. Every round I've ever done, I'm somewhere like 150 rounds I've helped raise. Each round on average is 100 no's. Okay, 70 to 100 no's for every single yes. Okay, it just, you average that out. So just, you gotta keep at it. But in every story, Ryan at Flexport, I remember his seed round was done. His board member, Roy Bahat, is a good friend of mine. He's like, he needs help raising A. Nobody wants to give him money. I'm like, okay. I sat down with him. How did the world do it? Oh, it's green screens. Oh, got it. All of shipping logistics in the world is green screens, right? And show the visual of literally on the screen what a green screen is. People don't know what that is. He's like, oh, really? What are you doing? You're beautiful web UI software. Oh, okay. Duh. Like that pitch alone, the whole world is working on literally green screen, text-based logistics, and you're bringing a visual interface where you can track ships all over the world and tell you where the product is. That's the pitch. They raised A. B round, struggles again, come back in. It was just storytelling. Flexport's now, it's a $50 billion company. Every story, every founder has that story. It was always about just how to tell that story. The pitch, it's very slight tweak. It has to be simple, right? What was Flexport? Well, the whole world shows on green screens. UI, this is like 10 years ago. That should work. What did they do, right? It's not complicated. You don't need to do the intricacies and use all these bullshit web terminology. Like, forget the terminology. What does the product do? And let me visualize it, and so that I can tell the story to my partners and understand it and give you money.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Pham.